So I've milled up a cherry log that I've had drying out for about a year and a half. You can see I've mounted it on the lathe here. After cutting it on the bandsaw, I cut out a very rough circle shape, and then using a compass marked marked an actual circle inside. Mounted it with I think eight screws. And it's now secured on the lathe. So if we begin turning, so I'm going to speed this up until it's probably about 200 RPM, fast enough to actually cut. You can see it looks nothing like a bowl or even circular yet. The idea is I'm going to cut a rough bowl shape, with this being the bottom of the bowl, the side that you're looking at now, and cut a tenon on the bottom for my other pair of clamping jaws to lock onto, so I can then turn it around and hollow out the inside or the middle. Those jaws are down here, you can see. I'm currently doing that with another bowl. Here it is after about 15-20 minutes of roughing it out. You can see there's still a little bit left, a little bit of bark to turn away. Some punky cambium here. I don't know how easy it is to tell. I'm starting to cut the tenon at the bottom. That's what the chuck is going to grip onto. Spinning much more cleanly now. Now have the final outer shape of the bowl turned. You can see the tenon to grab onto. Gotten rid of the punky areas on the outside and all the bark on the outside here. If I stop it, you can see this is where I'm still not great. You can see some of the tool marks from the gouge that I was using to cut. So I think I'm just gonna sand the outside of this and flip it around. I've now got the outside of the bowl done and mounted here on my chuck. You can see with the faceplate screwed in. So now I'm going to hollow out the center of the bowl. Here you can see I'm hollowing out the inside with a couple different bowl gouges, and I'm using the center stock here with a live center just to give it some additional holding power. Alright, the inside of the bowl is now hollowed out. The walls are just about as thick as I want them. What I'm going to do now is flip the bowl back around onto my vacuum chuck so that I can then turn off most of this tenon at the bottom. So what I'm doing now in order to turn this tenon off is I've reversed I put the chuck on the tailstock here, and this is a vacuum chuck. So there's a rubber, you can see there's a rubber kind of gasket around the edge of it, and I don't know how well you can tell back here, but I have a vacuum generator going through the headstock here. There's the vacuum generator, and I have that hooked up to my air compressor. So I'm going to start generating a vacuum, push the bowl up against that vacuum chuck, and it should stick on. So I'm not sure if you can hear it or not, but that hiss, we've got a vacuum going. Let's see, there we go. So what I've done here now is I've loosened the tailstock, or the chuck back here, and I should be able to just pull the tailstock away. There we go. Now this bowl is held in place just by the vacuum formed at the bottom of this. So what I can do now is, taking very light cuts, I can now carve away the tenon at the bottom of this bowl and finish it. Alright, and it's finished. You can see it's not completely centered on the vacuum chuck. I made one small mistake mounting it. Otherwise, this thing is done. I still left a small tenon on there just to keep the bowl a little bit elevated off the table. So I'm going to stop this. see it's almost glossy or almost reflective. I sanded it down to 600 grit. And now when I stop the vacuum here, this thing should just fall off. Oh, pop off. There we go. Bowl is done. It's ready for some mineral oil and beeswax. Man, look at the grain in this piece of cherry. That is just awesome. And it started off as the other half of that log.